comments, or do you have the information from resolution 2020-59, the bond issue? I had Mr. Manning send it out to everyone. I hope you got it. Well, it's right there.
Yeah, I have it on my phone here.
Yeah, I've got it. I printed it out. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Hendersonville Capital Project Committee. It's today is September the 29th, and it is 4:01 p.m. in the afternoon. And we have an agenda. It is the I'm going to just run down it real quick. The parks inline hockey relocation, fire hall construction, fire truck replacements, public works Drake Creek roundabout, parks turf field conversion, Vietnam Veterans Park, and Creek Field 5, Drake Creek Field 5, and fire pack air replacement units, and the parks LED light replacement and installation program. All right. Item number 1 will be fire hall construction. Fire Chief Bush, would you like to give us a quick rundown on the fire hall construction that you'd like to have?
Sure. So we obviously have chosen a architect, a group to move forward with money that you guys had appropriated, I think, from last year's budget for drawings. We have met with them once. They're actually coming here to Station 2 next Tuesday. We had over 20 people that applied or submitted proposals for that opportunity. And myself, Marshall, Keith Free, and Greg reduced it to about 3 or 4. And then we reduced it to 2. And then we made the decision to go with Wold HFR based on their history, based on the longevity of projects they've done, the works they've done with different fire departments. Nashville, they're currently building one over in Mount Juliet, I think Pleasant View as well. So they have a pretty lengthy history. They've done some stuff in Franklin. They built Metro Nashville's headquarters. So we had a really good meeting with them. We're meeting here Tuesday and moving that project forward in hopes of being prepared for whatever you folks decide to do with the bond. With Station 7, you guys know in 2017, we did a prioritization study through MTAS that was free. Mr. Dennis Wolf come out and did that for us. And because of the growth on the north side of town, that was where they deemed the necessity for a station. Obviously, it labeled out the next 3 stations to be built, whatever time frame that's done. But with the growth being so much on the north side, this is where the need's there. And as I've spoken before, we have about a 9.5, 10-minute response time to Autumn Creek, to Durham Farms, to Fountain Brook. All those areas out there are a huge concern. But we also have those same issues to the back of Matsker Farms as well. Obviously, with a piece of property that Mr. Gilley offered up that was free within the park, it was a great opportunity for us to move forward with this project. And we're just looking for you folks to support this moving forward with the bond. And I'll be quiet if there's any questions from anybody about the fire station before we move into the engines and the air pack.
All right, and the projected cost on that was $2.5 million.
Yes, that's correct. We're basing that off of the builder that got finished doing building here. He kind of gave us a cost estimate in our conversation the other day. Right now, with the economy being the way that it's been, they're seeing a lot of bids come back in under budget, which is always good news. But I also want to add to that caveat that with the board's permission and CA Lamarb and whoever else needs to bless that, I would like to move forward with possibly approaching the county to submit some funding as well to help build that station or add to it, because again, they've helped Gallatin Fire and they've helped Portland Fire with developing stations, and we've housed their ambulances for over 30 years and never charged them a dime.
All right, thank you.
That the I'm sorry.
Alderman Cunningham had her hand up first, so let me grab Alderman Cunningham, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was going to ask Scotty exactly what he just added in the last several sentences that he, how are we going to proceed with that? Do we need a resolution to do that? Or can we just, or can Dave authorize Scotty to to approach the county to do that? How are we going to do that? Because we need to drill down on the process and get that started, because I think at last time we were trying to do that, we waited too long and they were in the middle of their budget at that point, or just about finished with their budget. So we kind of lost out. So how are we going to do that? And I don't know if my question is directed to Scotty or to Dave or,
You talk about process.
yes.
Alderman Sprouse.
The county commission is expecting that conversation. The chairman of the budget committee said the last time we talked to him, I talked to him about it, that the time to ask is when we are getting ready to do our next construction, because then that way we can come with a firm cost. You know what the associated cost is going to be, how much space is going to be dedicated to them. It's a little bit easier that way. There's no need for a resolution or any sort of official approval from the board for Scotty Bush to go out and to seek a funding source. And if Scotty wants to do it, if Robert wants to do it, just however staff decides is the best way to approach it. And if they need to engage any of us individually to talk to the county officials as well, then we can do that. But there's nothing official that we would need to do until we would have to accept their funding. And then, of course, some appropriations. And then if there was any agreement that they wanted out of us that, you know, we're going to pay money for this, but based upon this, you have to guarantee that we're going to have access to the building and stuff like that. But to initiate it, to come up with a number, to come up with a proposal of what they can give, there's nothing other than just staff having that conversation and then bringing us in if they'd like us to provide feedback. Or,
Well,
yeah.
my thought would be to, if like a so-called public safety delegation or whatever attend their finance, do they have a finance committee or their budget committees?
They have budget committee. And
Attend and be part of the record to do that at one point in time, maybe have the casual conversation and then like go on record.
well, I
in
think
some-
I trust, you know, one of the things we have to be careful of is that Al Smith once said that a committee is a group of people, a group of 10 people who don't have the power of one. So I think if Scotty sat down with Chris Taylor, the county's Chris Taylor, not the city's Chris Taylor, and sat down what the expectations were and what the numbers were. And then if they needed to bring additional people in at that time, they can do that. But I think a one-on-one conversation is probably the best thing to do.
Okay.
Coach, you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'd like to add, if you remember correctly, a year or two ago, we had this conversation when we were talking about building Station 2.
Mhm.
And Mr. Brown and myself had some conversation. We typed up a letter and sent it up. Mr. Brown may want to shed some more information in on this, but he talked to Mr. Taylor then, who was the head of public safety for the county. There were some discussions that they had about, you know, if you didn't do it this time, you better expect it next time. And what can we expect from you? So some of that groundwork's already been there. So I do agree with Mr. Sprouse. I think they are expecting us fully to come forward. And I will tell you what we did last time, and I don't know that this is appropriate, but we based it off the square footage of what they're using at the stations. And we came up with a fee, and we basically said, this is what you've used for 30 years. Not that we're looking for you to pay it all back at one time for 30 years of use. But, you know, let's just say over the last 5-10 years, whatever. And this is the cost that we brought forward to seek funding from the county. And I don't know that that's what you folks want, but I'll certainly don't have a trouble with going and talking to anybody and asking for whatever guidelines you all think's fair.
Good.
Anyone else, any other committee members have a comment they'd like to make? Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. I'm assuming we're using the wave method because my actual blue hand's been up before.
Yes, I can't see your blue hand, but let me see what happens when I click on that.
Okay, so we'll use the wave as long as I know what method we're using.
So the problem with that blue hand deal is it's right in the middle of my screen. I can't see a thing other than the,
Okay.
you know, the handprint.
Anyway, you've already said, some of you already said some of the things I wanted to say, but I would tell Ms. Cunningham and everybody else, that groundwork's already laid. Those casual conversations have already been had since we did send a letter, and we're told at that time the best thing we could do when we got ready to build that next fire hall is come and request the money then. So I think we're about at the point we're getting ready to build that next fire hall. So it's time to go make our request. Scotty's very capable of doing that, but I talked to Chris at that time as well too, and I'd be glad to accompany him to that meeting if he wants to do that. But I think now is the time to ask, because it could certainly save us some money in this particular bond we're going to talk about that could maybe be spent in the bottom part of this agenda that we're going to talk about too. So that groundwork's been laid.
Excellent,
I think we know we're probably
excellent.
going to move. So I would, as one of the committee members, public safety chair, I would tell Scotty I'd be getting that appointment, pretty soon. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the fire hall construction? Mr. Manning, do you feel comfortable with the $2.5 million projected cost on that? Based on information you've been given, I mean, I realize you don't really have any other.
Right. Based on the information I've been given, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Marshall, do you have your hand up just then? I'm sorry. I didn't know if you put your hand up, Marshall. I saw your hand up for a moment. So.
No, I'm good. I'm good, Pat.
All right, just making sure because yes, sir, Alderman Brown.
Okay, I go back to one of my original questions that I had my hand up for before I even get into fire hall and inline hockey and roundabouts and everything else. I want to ask Mr. Manning. He sent us an instrument out to look at the other day. It had blanks in it. What is the maximum amount we can fill those blanks with and still make the state happy, make you happy, and keep us happy?
Good
Well,
question.
The comptroller's not going to weigh in.
But that's a little bit of putting you on the spot. So
Sure. Well, the comptroller's not going to weigh in on how much we can borrow. There's except for in very dire times, it's more the instrument and how we borrow, what we're borrowing for. The TCA does not preclude us, does not have a limit. I always say that it's what I feel is the best method is to look at what the yearly payment's going to be, because at that point it is a reduction of current year. If when we borrow here, if next year's payment is $700,000, then that's $700,000 that we have to cut from the budget, essentially, or we hope we grow $700,000 each year, because that's the payment that you're committing to at that point. I can give estimates on if the total was 8 million, that'd be around $860,000 a year. If it was 7 million, it'd be around $750,000 a year. So it's kind of a comfort level with you guys on what you're comfortable restricting yourself to, if that makes sense at all. I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable going over 7, and that's even that stretching my initial number of 6.5. But again, it's up to the board if they want to do it, if they feel comfortable and feel confident that they can find the money elsewhere. We may grow at a rate enough to be able to fund it, but if they feel confident that they can commit debt service payments each year, then the numbers we're looking at are certainly within the board's power.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, as my finance director,
Yeah.
Who I lean on to talk in millions, my finance director at home talks in thousands, and I listen to her. So, but we pay you a lot more, so I really want to listen to you.
Sure.
I'm hearing somewhere between $6.5 and $7 million. You feel is a reasonably comfortable figure. You would be really nervous if we went to $8 million.
Just given the board's history, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you.
All right. Do y'all want to vote on these issues one at a time, or do we want to have the discussion of all the fire department items, like fire truck and also the fire air pack replacement? And then
You got a fire hall, you got to have a fire truck. So,
Exactly right.
I talked to Scotty about the fire truck and he said that he needs at least 12 to 13-month lead time on that.
Yes, ma'am.
I spoke with,
So-
Chief Bush, would you like to discuss the new fire truck, sir, or the new fire hall?
sure. So basically, this will be a turnkey piece of equipment, which basically means all we have to do is put personnel in it. We don't have the extra hose, the extra nozzles, the extra tools and appliances laying around to put on this piece of equipment. So typically, I think we bought two a year ago, a little over a year ago, and they were right around $800 and something thousand. But that was bare bones. You know, we just moved equipment off our older stuff and put onto our new apparatus. This one will come fully loaded with everything. All we have to do is put the personnel on it, and it's going to run about 800,000. Now, I will say this. I've talked to Mr. Lamar and Robert about HGAC, which is cooperative purchasing. That's a 2-year deal. They redo all their contracts, which involve fire engines and things like that. Other things that are beneficial to cities and municipalities. If we ordered it, I'm not saying we do, because I know this is, I mean, we're looking at October, you would save about 6%. The contract's up for renewal by the end of November of this year for HGAC. However, my plan was based on the cost, and it's going to cost about 800,000 just to buy the turnkey piece of equipment with all the appliances and hoses and everything else, air packs to go on that as well. Mr. Brown pretty much summed it up, not to be disrespectful to anybody, but it'd be kind of hard to open up a fire station without having a piece of fire equipment to put in there. I'd like to also add, Mr. Roberson and I have talked a couple of times in that district. Once this station's built, my intent is to bring ISO back in and have them reevaluate our city ISO rating. And we missed a 2 by a few points. I certainly feel like if this station's built, we have the staffing through the SAFER grant that you guys and gals were so gracious to give us a couple of years ago, that we can move some of those folks over there and then start looking at rehiring 2 or 3 years on down the road to get the numbers back up for personnel. So the long-term cost of employees, we've got them. We can make that transition pretty smooth. Just be a simple fact of promoting some people, putting them out there and getting that station up and operational, and get ISO back in here. And I certainly feel like that we could get that our ISO rating dropped again, which is a goal of mine to try to achieve either a 2 or a 1 before I retire from here.
Any other questions regarding fire truck replacement? I'm looking at my screen, guys. If you wonder what I'm sitting here doing, seeing if any hands
I'm
pop
looking
up
at
or
mine
anything.
too.
So, anyways, that puts us at $3.3 million for the fire truck and the fire hall at $2.5 million. Total is $3.3 million. I'm just making some notes here, Robert, since you said 6.5 is your comfort level, but we're looking at $7 to $8 million. So I just making some notes as we move along here. Do we have a motion on the fire hall and the fire truck replacement, since they do go hand in hand? Anyone want to make a motion to move those forward?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Brown's made a motion and Cunningham has seconded it to move forward with the fire hall construction and purchase of a new fire truck for that particular fire hall. Any discussion on that motion? No, sir?
Well, yes, a bit on that. I think one thing we got to remember is that we're looking at 3.3 million, but we need to establish a number. Scotty, maybe, and I don't know, myself, you're just in conversation of what to talk to the county about. So
Yes, sir.
I have $500,000 stuck in my mind. It may be a little bit more that, that 3.3 may come back down to be a 2.8. I feel certain after what was said in our conversation a couple of years ago that the county will come in and do something. So we need to, I don't know when we have to meet on this the second time or before BOMA meets, but we need to get to the county as soon as we can and see if we can't massage that figure, Scott.
I would agree. Yes, sir.
I'm okay with that. All I need is approval from my boss, and he tells me full speed ahead, and I'm ready to trudge that way.
Now then, in saying that, are we comfortable with voting on $3.3 million right at the moment for a fire hall and a fire truck? And then if we should come back in a week or so later from the county and say, yes, they're gonna give us 500,000, I'm gonna use the number that, and it drops the price down $500,000, then we can adjust our amount that we're looking to put into the bond issue. Is that okay with everyone? Sir?
Well, we could push the bond issue and then we could we adjust it at BOMA, is that right?
Yes.
We could figure out which items that we want included.
Oh, yes, ma'am. When it goes to BOMA, it'll be open for discussion
Included
again. I
in
mean,
that, and based on what the county comes back with, we could adjust the amount, right?
yes, ma'am. At that time, I mean, when it goes to full
Mhm.
BOMA, it will be open for discussion at that point as well. Yes, ma'am.
And this is going in the form of a resolution, right?
It can. Yes, ma'am.
Those just one reading?
Yes, ma'am. If
Okay.
you'd like that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking the question.
Mr.
think
Manning,
it
would you like
goes
to
in-
answer that? I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Resolution is correct. The request to borrow only requires a resolution.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then any other questions regarding the fire hall and fire truck? Ms. Price, do you have something? Alderman Edwards. Yes, sir.
When did y'all say that this may go before BOMA?
We're not sure just yet. I think October is the projected date is what they're looking for. Is that correct with everyone?
Believe
Alderman-
so.
Yes, in October.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I will say in our meeting the other day, the architect spoke and said that once we meet and they kind of start doing some drawings and have some more conversations with us, that they would put out for a GC probably February, March. That tends to be a good time for them to put out for looking for a general contractor to move forward with the station. So I don't want to speak for them. I know some of the folks are on here. If I'm saying anything wrong, folks, please speak up. As long as the chairman is okay with that. But I think I'm speaking correctly in saying that they're looking at February or March before they actually go out for a general contractor.
All right. Any other questions regarding the motion? All right, I'm gonna take a voice vote. Alderman Brown,
Yes, sir.
Alderman Cunningham,
Yes, sir.
Alderman Skidmore,
Aye.
and Alderman Sprouse,
Yes.
and chair is yes as well. I pass unanimously. That's the fire hall and the fire truck. Now the next item will be the air pack replacement for the fire hall. That has a price tag of $598,000. Chief, would you like to discuss this for us real quick?
Yes, so I think we've talked about it a couple of times in different committees. So obviously this is replacing every one of our units, every one of our air packs plus spare bottles. So it'd be 140 bottles total and 70 complete air packs, which would mean all of our masks would be replaced. We would have all the up-to-date newest of the MSA air packs that we currently wear. Right now, we're 2 years away from everything being out of date. And the opportunity, although they still have to honor parts, they don't have to tell you when those parts would come in. So if something started shutting down on them, we may have to take an air pack out of service for an extended period of time because they're not making those parts anymore. So it's pretty important. I mean, obviously that's some of our safety equipment that we wear. You know, whether you folks put it on a bond or know that it's going to be coming back up next year and probably the year after that on a budgetary concern, that's strictly your call on that. I just thought maybe with it being a bond opportunity that it might be a great chance to get this on there. Now, I will put a caveat in there. I've talked to Chief Fan. It's going to be one of the things that we pursue in AFG as well to try to get our air packs replaced. So, I mean, we're still going to pursue grant opportunities for that. I just don't want to put all the eggs into one basket because you never know with grants what's going to get granted or not. and missed this opportunity. To me, if we were to get the grant and it came in after the fact that we did the bond, Robert, you correct me if I'm wrong, if we didn't need the money for the air packs, we could simply just hang on to that money and make a payment towards the bond. Is that not correct?
Yeah, you'd have to pay it directly back. We wouldn't be able to repurpose.
Correct.
Unless we had a line item within the bond itself that was issued that we needed additional funds for, correct? Robert?
That's correct,
Yes.
but
We don't want to do that, but I mean, if we
that
had.
large of an amount, yeah, it would be probably better off. We would probably be better off just doing an appropriation and then repaying back, just
Yes,
to
sir.
avoid any. It's heavily looked upon with arbitrage from the IRS. These are watched very heavily with borrowings.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
I want to add too, I don't want to cut anybody off, but I think those numbers may be off a little bit. I think the total cost is around 610 to replace them. We got a $630,000 quote and a $610,000 quote. The 630 was kind of like the Cadillac. We can certainly make do with a 610,000 model.
We look at splitting the difference and doing about 620. We're talking about a bond issue, and it's something that's projected to be spent. It's not solid firm prices yet.
That's more of a question for you guys, I guess, on what you want to do with that.
You recommend 610,000 on that?
Yes, I think the one that came higher was all the extra bells and whistles. So like you could have Bluetooth on them so you could track your firefighters inside the building, which means you would have to buy some more things on the outside to be able to do that. And I just didn't want to be super greedy and keep asking for that stuff. It might be something on down the road that we can look at doing, and you can certainly add those on at a later date. So, and again, trying to keep the bond as low and reasonable as possible. I know we're only talking 20 grand, but still, yeah, it's taxpayers' money. So 20 grand is 20 grand.
All right. And Arlene, Alderman Cunningham. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Chairman. On the grant from that we're getting from the state, what is it, $1.3 million? I know we're going to purchase some police vehicles with that, and this may be directed to either Robert or Dave. Do we have any money left over from that grant to maybe allocate to the air packs instead of putting it into a bond?
I'm gonna like to
Dave
answer that for her.
And
Dave or Robert could answer that question.
it'd be an immaterial amount. Right now, we haven't spent on the projects quite yet. So we've started with, as you'll know, September, October is kind of a cash flow problem, and not necessarily this year as much as past years, but being cautious there. We haven't gone out for every item yet, so we're not entirely sure, but if there was leftover money, it would be minimal at best, I'm thinking.
So the grant that we got the grant already, or we're going to get it this coming year, or
Yes, we've received the funding already.
how much did we get, Robert?
It
Was it 1.3?
It was $1,300,614.
Okay, so didn't we have to allocate it to certain projects?
We did allocate it to certain projects. That's correct. Those projects I can pull up in front of you if you'd like.
Yes,
but those
if you don't
projects,
mind.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I believe about half of it was to police vehicles. Was that not right?
That's correct. No, you're right on that. Mhm.
And then I don't know what the other part of it was. Was it paving or we couldn't do paving with that? We had to do we were restricted to what we can spend it on.
Initially, we were restricted. They've loosened restrictions on that heavily since, and it was opened up as just a general funding source. The city was getting that money regardless, but we needed to submit an application and a budget to say what we plan to use it on. I don't know. We'll see if I have, I do. Okay. I will share before you in just one moment if I can. Okay. If everybody's all right with that. If you're not, I apologize and we'll take this.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Robert, and I should have asked you about this ahead of time.
It's quite all right. If everyone can see my screen, these are the items that were ultimately decided to utilize the funding for. As you noted, police vehicles made up about 45% of that. 40% probably. And then various other items, IT camera hall, city hall camera system, some ballistic vests, ADA projects, and signal replacement. Sort of the bulk of the items there. But again,
Okay.
to your point, we have received that funding. Just not all of these items have been moved on. So I think if there is leftover funds, it may be minimal, but.
All right. I was just looking for other funding sources. So
Sure.
you answered my question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me figure out how to stop sharing my screen and I will get you back.
I understand.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question about that.
All right.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion. Well, would like to make a motion to approve the air pack replacement in this bond for the fire department.
I'll do that.
All right, we have a motion. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Alderman Brown made a motion and Alderman Cunningham seconded the motion to move forward with placing the air pack replacement for the fire department on this bond issue. Estimated cost of $610,000. I'm gonna call for a voice vote real quick on the motion. Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Alderman Cunningham,
Yes.
Alderman Skidmore,
Yes.
Alderman Sprout,
Yes.
and the chair is aye as well. Now we have a motion that's been made and seconded and voted on. Any discussion of the motion? Being there's no further discussion on that motion, like to call for a vote on that. All in favor say aye when I call your name. Alderman Brown.
Aye.
Alderman Cunningham.
Aye.
Alderman Skidmore.
Aye.
Alderman Sprouse.
Aye.
Carries aye as well. That passed unanimously. All right, we got 3 items moved out of the way for the fire department. Now let's talk about the parks inline hockey relocation and Mary's Magical Place. Director Gilly, are you with us? Yes, you are. See in my corner now, my screen there. Would you like to give us a quick rundown on the? I think we all are up to speed with what we're doing here. We're going to take and move inline hockey over to Volunteer Park. Direct new inline hockey rinks over there, and then that would allow us to correct some slow down the flooding that occurs over at Mary's Magical Place, so we don't have a type of damage we've had in the past. Hopefully that will work out. But Director Gilly, would you like to expand on that?
I can. Mary's Place, that project will be funded out of stormwater utility money. That is not in this
Yes, sir.
capital outlay, so that's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
We got the documents. Mr. Sexton is on the call, I think, but with Los Design was picked to do both of these projects. So you can't really do Mary's Place until we know for sure that we're going to have a target date to fund and move inline hockey, because we got to tear up that ground over there. You know, I think you all have had the information as far as the documentation. I think many of you have met with the inline hockey group one-on-one. It comes down to a question of covering them or not. If we install them and we don't cover them, it will be for our city residents and the league use. If we cover them, we will bring in tourism. There's no question about it. I think the packet I emailed the committee yesterday, you saw commitments from several national groups that would bring events in here. I really, we've met so many times about this for the past year or so. If there's anybody has any questions, I guess it'd be the place to go with that, as far as I'm concerned. Or if you need to hear from the hockey group, there's a couple of them on here. You need to hear from Mr. Lamar.
Any committee members have any questions at this moment?
No, not anymore. I had a bunch of questions before, but they're all answered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Edwards, I understand I missed your hand being raised a moment ago. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask, sir?
I have nothing regarding this. Thank you.
All right, sir. Yes, if I miss you, just feel free to throw your hand up, because like I said, this screen sharing thing is, I'm looking at like 20 people at the moment. So just make sure that get you there. Any other discussion on moving the inline hockey relocation to Veterans Park? I mean, from Veterans Park to Volunteer Park. Brown, Alderman Brown.
Thank you, sir. Randy's smiling. Randy's on. This is going to be brought up, whether it's brought up now or it's brought up at Bowman. So I might as well bring it up now.
Yes, sir.
We have an inline hockey rink, and I think everybody agrees it needs to be moved. There needs to be some work done on stormwater to keep Mary's Magical Place from flooding. But here's what the discussion is going to be, and I'd like to see us work through that a little bit this evening. And if we can, we don't have a lot of time, but there's moving the rink and there's putting a roof on the rink. There's $2 figures there. So somebody needs to speak to that, not necessarily me, because that's all I know, but it will be asked at the board level if it's not asked here. So let's discuss it a little bit now here if we can. And I don't know who wants to lead that, whether it's Mr. Gilly or.
I can, if you want me to, if I can share my screen. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. Let's see here.
Go right ahead, sir. You can try.
How about that? If you got a Los Design logo on your
There you go.
screen?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this first document is, as I scroll, this first document would be to cover them, install them and cover them all at once. You see the total down at the bottom of 2.843. Within this document are some prices that don't take into consideration our ability to utilize our contract with the Rogers Group and also insurance money that we still have in the bank. So that's why it says I think it says 2.6 on your sheet, if I'm not mistaken. If you go down, uncovered rinks, price tag down here at the bottom, total without cover. And I might have to get Mr. Sexton to speak to this, because our intention was, even if we didn't cover them, was to build them and install the footers to cover them at a later date. So that price tag would be 1.743. And then to come back later and add the cover, you're talking about another 1.3 to 4. I mean, not another 1 point. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Yes, that is correct. 1.4 to get it to a total of 3,070,000. I can't see good enough. How's that? 3,075,000. So the basically the difference between covering them now or covering them later would be a savings of $200,000 to $300,000. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir, it does. And also that's not really projecting increases in cost over the next how many years are we talking on waiting to put the covers on them? Are we talking 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years? I mean, costs could go up substantially.
Correct.
Any other committee members have Mr. Brown? Yes, sir.
Question for Mr. Gilly probably, and maybe Mr. Gillum, who's president of that league. When we talk about revenues that could come to the city a bit by having a cap on this rink versus non-revenues, which is tournaments, so on and so forth.
Yes, let me stop sharing my screen real quick. I think David Gillum is on.
He's there.
Sure enough.
He's met with several of you along with other members of the hockey group. Dave, if you want to speak to that more intelligently than I can.
Certainly. You know, the fact of the matter is without a roof structure on the rink, they're revenue neutral. We essentially as a city just kind of see the same revenue that we get from the rinks today, which is simply stated just player fees that are paid to the parks department, you know, some minuscule tournament or concession fees that are paid to the parks department, and that's about it. Once we put a roof on, as Andy alluded to earlier, we've got letters from 4 national organizations who've said we want to do tournaments in Nashville. One of those has said they want to do multiple tournaments per year, and those typically are 3-day tournaments. And so we're looking at 3 nights of hotel stays. We're looking at all the associated retail and restaurant spending that goes along with that. And so the cover really turns this into a revenue generator, whereas without it, you just simply do not have it. You can make some estimates in the amortization schedule and based on how many tournaments there are per year and how many people attend those tournaments and the economic impact, and it's feasible that it could pay for itself over a 12-year period. But a lot of that's with some gross assumptions that are being made, obviously, and you know, times being what they are, it's hard to predict those types of things. But again, the basic idea is you put a roof on it, you generate revenue. You don't put a roof on it and it stays as is, and Hendersonville residents are paying for that facility.
I know this is a hockey rink, and I'm not trying to railroad your meeting, but you know, if you put a roof on it, is there other sports that can be done in there?
Certainly.
I don't know that much about inline hockey. Don't know that much about hockey. I mean, I'm learning. Hockey was where I was raised at, was something they did in Quebec. So now we're doing it in Tennessee. So educate me a little bit. Can that be utilized, Andy, or whoever wants to, for anything else?
It can be used. There's a sport called box lacrosse that we've had interest in coming here to play. Basically, what it says, lacrosse in a box and tennis shoes on those kind of surfaces. There's also potential to do a couple of, I wouldn't call it indoor soccer, but that could be used for soccer underneath that roof as well. And the other potential use that we discussed was the ability to take those rinks and cover the floor, kind of like they do in gymnasiums, and set up for a community type event that needs to have a larger space, but also covered out of the elements, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Actually, I liked it.
Yeah,
all right, thank you, John.
I'm sorry if I could interrupt.
Yes, sir.
As Andy mentioned, the box lacrosse, the head coach at Vanderbilt lacrosse team is working in conjunction with a national box lacrosse tournament director and has already approached us with using the existing facility for box lacrosse tournaments. Although he did say that it would be much easier to do that if he had a roof, and that's kind of been the linchpin or the you know, the fulcrum, I guess, between these tournaments, saying, hey, we're willing to come versus, you know, we're not interested.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that information. Any other members of the committee have anything to say about the cover or no cover? Alderman Edwards, raise your hand. I'm sorry.
Nothing.
All right, sir. All right. Robert, you need to say something?
Either Arlene wants to say something or she's
They're
I got fingers going like this, and I'm not sure who else to
two
speak.
people are raising their hand that aren't me. I was pointing at them.
Mark, I think Mark raised his hand
Yes,
first.
sir. Alderman Skidmore, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this evening?
Fine, sir.
All right. Well, here's my thought process on this. I know that I think we all want this. Obviously, the first 3 items we have, to me, is an absolute one that the city needs to help its taxpayers. There's no question about that, because without that stuff, you have no fire hall. So I don't really think there's going to be any question now. So then you have to come to the recreation facility, which what we're now is going at with the inline hockey. We've got to start seeking solutions to things that's going to take things like this to bring revenues into the city, because, it may be in a year, I don't know how long it would take to even build one of these things. But it may take a year and a half or something like that. And then it gets on its feet and then people start talking about it. And then it's up to Andy to get, the message out that we have this kind of facility. What I would suggest that we do is just go ahead and put it in here now, see where we are by the end of the meeting, because as Alderman Brown so eloquently said, it's going to be discussed at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen anyway. And if there are some on there that insist that we take it out, if the 7 votes are there, as John Bradley says all the time, if the 7 votes are there to take something out, they'll take it out. And if not, then we've done our job. So I would say that we, in my opinion, just go ahead and put that in there, see what our totals are this evening. Then once it comes to the board, everybody will have an opportunity to voice their opinion, not only on this, but also the fire department as well. That's just the way I look at it. But I welcome other people's comments about it. So thank you, Chairman.
Would you like to put that in form of a motion, sir?
Yes, I would. I mean, I'll put in form of a motion that we approve it. And the total, it was back on there and I neglected to write it down from Andy's presentation. And what's the total, including the cover?
The 2.6 is what's on the list that should be before you, I believe.
Okay, I would say the 2.6 then.
All right, Alderman Cunningham.
To Mark's motion, now it's 2.6 covered. What was it uncovered?
At this time, it's around 1.75.
And then if we come back and want to cover them later, it's how much more?
1.3 to 1.4.
Yeah, get you up over 300. Get you up over $3 million for the entire project.
Okay, so we're looking at an additional 400,000 to 500,000 if we decide to do it at a later time. Is that right? Do I have my numbers right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion from my committee members? E.A. Lamar, yes, sir, you have the floor.
Like to say, I'd like to see the project go all the way through, on full tilt to 2.6, just because I know several of the hockey board members are on here listening. I think that you put the cover on it, we see some instant money coming in from travel teams and things like that. If we put it off, I think some of those letters that we got for guaranteed hockey tournaments and things like that for 2 to 3 years may go away. So they may be able to answer. David may be able to answer that one, or Randy or somebody may be able to answer that. But I just hate for us to lose the opportunity to get these national, these Southeastern regional tournaments. I think we're going to be losing a lot of revenue on the front end. And then if we do it in 2 or 3 years, like Arlene was talking about, then we spend another $500,000. So I'd like to see it go through in its entirety, in because these things have been, of course, flooded out so many times. I think we do it the right way this time and do it once and for all. I agree with Mark. I think we do it on the front end and do it. So that's my vote.
Do we have a second on the Mark's motion? Sorry, Arlene, I couldn't hear you.
I'll second it.
All right, Brown seconds that motion.
I forgot I was muted.
All right, we have a motion to move with the $2.6 million for the inline hockey relocation, covered playing surfaces. Alderman Skidmore. So I'd like to, since there's no more discussion, I'd like to ayes, yes, noes, no. Roll call vote. Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Cunningham.
Yes.
Alderman Skidmore.
Yes.
Alderman Sprouse.
Yes.
Alderman Campbell's yes. Passes unanimously to the board. All right. Thank you everyone for that discussion. And also now we're looking at putting putting turf on field, the conversion of fields, Veterans Park and Breaks Creek Field 5. Turfing those fields. Director Gilly, would you like to touch on that real quick?
And this is a situation where from several years, we've seen the benefit of having just one turf baseball field. We get to play here when nobody else gets to play, teams coming from all over the country. What we've seen has happened here recently is the communities around us have started constructing turf athletic quads, basically, for lack of a better word. Smyrna has done it. Metro Nashville has done it out at Cane Ridge. Murfreesboro's coming. Clarksville has it. The city of Huntsville, just over the line, has it. To be able to have this on top of the events that we already are able to bring in and allow us to play even when it rains a lot of times would be a huge win for the city. Things like, I'll give you a good example. Last spring, the Trevecca softball team has a tournament here every spring. It's been rained out twice. We ran the risk last year of them moving it to Smyrna because they have the complex now in turf, and they want to, if they're going to have teams come from all over the country, they want to schedule it in a place where it's not going to get rained out. The benefit to doing it at Veterans Park is that those fields continue to be in the floodplain, and with turf being there, we run way less of a risk of them being washed out and having to replace dirt and different things. The field at Drakes Creek, Field 5, was basically the only one that was recommended by the company, that the same company that did Field 3, the baseball field, looked at this project. The Field 5 is the only one that really lends itself to doing this without just totally tearing down a whole field and starting over from scratch. And that would give us 4. And anybody knows anything about tournaments and things like that, events, you know, the 4 helps you have a quad of fields to play on. The other benefit, and this is important too, we have several situations where we have an event, a big tournament at Drakes Creek Park, and we move our local leagues over to Veterans Park. There's a lot of situations where we end up having to cancel at Veterans because those fields aren't in quite as good a shape, but we're able to play at Drakes Creek because they're in better shape. I want to be able to service our local people full time also. That would help tremendously. So, you know, it's just a it's a project. Sooner or later, we're going to need this. We're going to need turf football / soccer full-size fields as well to keep us going forward. And I just feel like we've seen the benefit of it on one field. I can't imagine the benefit of 3 to 4. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer it, hopefully.
Any questions from committee members?
Well, how long does it take to do something like this, Andy?
It's a project that needs to be done over the winter time. So to be perfect with our schedule, to be perfectly honest, the way it would, Robert, you can answer this question. This is money we wouldn't even see till January at the earliest, I'm thinking, right?
I apologize. I missed the question.
I'm just asking, this money would not even be available to use until early part of 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
Which money are we talking about?
Capital outlay
That's
note.
what Arlene's question was.
Capital outlay note money, when would it be available?
Oh.
I'm trying to give her a
Yeah.
timeline on when
Yeah,
construction.
you're correct. That's,
So-
we wouldn't be able, at the earliest would be, I'd say January 2021.
So if that's the case, Ms. Cunningham, if the money's not available till January 2021, this is a project that would be completed next winter.
2022?
It would be ready to go spring of 2022. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We wouldn't be
Is
able
there-
to shut down
there-
those 3 fields during the summertime to do a 2-month project.
Okay. All right. That was my question. Andy, is there any way that you might be able to include this in your budget?
I mean, I was going to include it in this year's budget before the corona. So
Okay. All right. Well, looks like sales tax is coming in pretty good, and some other things are looking up. So that would be my question. I'm just, we're at $6.5 million right now of what we just passed.
Sure.
Not even touching. I mean, if we're gonna go full steam ahead with this hockey thing, then, Andy, in your opinion, what would you rather have, the hockey or the turf field?
I'm taking the Fifth Amendment on that one.
Okay, all right, I got you. You
On
answered
advice,
my
on advice of
question.
his attorney. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, you answered my question.
I mean, there's huge positives to both. It's not
Yeah,
it's not a matter of,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
yeah,
I
you're about like
apologize.
asking me in the Bible who cut the baby in half, right? It's a huge plus for both. So
I see what beaches, what the new beach field looks like. I mean, it's
exactly.
awesome.
I would say this, if it's not included in this capital outlay note, I would ask for one of two things. I would ask to take a look at the revenue from the year coming based on what I've already seen of sales tax and what I know is coming towards the end of the year, or to place it in the budget as a project.
Okay, thank you for your
I don't know if
information and your
Marv has
honesty.
anything he wants to add to that.
Appreciate it.
Alderman Brown or Alderman Sprouse, good morning. Do y'all have any questions this time? Alderman Edwards?
Yeah, is there any room in the hotel motel tax that we could give some of that money to the inline or the turf replacement?
That'd be a Robert question.
We're running real thin on that right now.
Really? I didn't know if it's improved, the revenues are improving from what we projected.
Well, we're on track for what we budgeted this year for hotel motel. It is improving, but we anticipated approval. We're on track to meet our budget for hotel motel right now.
Okay.
I think part of the other consideration there may be potentially at the end of the year some leftover because of what we turned in last year. As far as if it applies, I would think so. In my mind, it would. Typically what we've done is survey, and by we, I've not actually been the person doing it. However, survey some of the individuals affected who are actually paying the tax and see how they feel about it. And when they felt okay, we've moved forward. But in my mind, this is tourism development.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just based on what little information I know about the hotel motel, I don't have any question that this would fall under that. Just it's tourism related. I just didn't know financially if, I don't know, just an idea.
Sure.
Maybe we can revisit that, applying any of those funds towards it.
It would be at year end. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It would be at year end when we'll really know. We did have some left over from last year just due to trying to turn in some funding. And but again, that is generally used at the beginning of the year for cash flow purposes while money's coming in. So
okay. All right. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Edwards. Sitting there thinking about this, since Alderman Skidmore made the comment about Bowman's going to be voting on, it's going to go to Bowman. We're going to have another discussion on this entire program. We'd like to just go ahead and move the turfing of the fields, the LEDs, and the roundabout, and just go ahead and vote on this, move it to Bowman as a whole, and let the Bowman have the final say on this, because that's where it's going. I mean, we all know we can recommend all day long, but at the end of the day, we're going to Bowman and we're going to have a discussion over there. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Cunningham, it's Alderman Cunningham.
Since you brought the roundabout up, I was under the impression that the developer was paying for this.
They're paying they put about $650,000 to $700,000 into that roundabout, but they're still about it's about $680,000 short. So that's why Marshall is asking for the additional funds to do that. Marshall, would you like to answer that question, sir?
Yeah, to kind of further explain that, they're continuing to build houses in Durham as well as, Fountain Brook and those other subdivisions. And so, we've appropriated all the money that we have from the subdivisions, but going out 2, 3, 4 years into the future, we're going to continue to collect more money. And so my thought was, instead of waiting, until we collected all the money that we could, we could go ahead and build it now, and then kind of pay ourselves back, when we got those fees. But that was the idea, the idea behind it.
Well, can I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
What, is there a sense of urgency to this right now, Marshall? I mean, I'm not understanding why we have to come up with that money now if, I was really under the impression the developer was paying for it. And it sounds like eventually they are going to be paying for the whole thing,
Right.
in some form or fashion over the next few years. But, like I said, is there a sense of urgency right now?
There, as you know, there exists a situation at the intersection. This is not, it's not ideal. In some ways, it's unsafe. And as Durham continues to grow, and we looked at the numbers just a couple of days ago, and the traffic has almost doubled just in the matter of a year or two at that location. And so we're just trying to do, as much as we can to help fix that intersection, and just make it as safe as we possibly can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marshall.
So in other words, we're going to take the developer's money and pay that portion. If we decide to borrow that money, pay that towards the payment every year. Is that how we're going to do that? I mean, I'm not quite understanding how it's going to be allocated.
Marshall, am I correct that there's already about $600,000 in that fund? And then you're going to add another 6.8 million to $680,000 to it to get it up to the 1.1 million you need to do the roundabout completely.
Yeah, that's correct, Pat. We've appropriated about 650, and we've based on the estimates we have needed another 680 to get the project complete. And again, those are estimates, but we could. I guess kind of going along with what you said, Miss Arlene, is just as we get those fees back in, just pay ourselves back for the for the money.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that correctly. Thank you very much.
Any other conversations? Alderman Edwards? Did he leave us? Have that? Okay, Alderman Brown, Alderman Sprouse, Alderman Skidmore. We'd like to go ahead and vote on moving, like I said, the LED light replacement, the turfing the field, and the roundabout all into the next vote, and move this on to BOMA as a $7.9 million bond issue, which will be adjusted at BOMA.
Let me just ask.
Yes, sir. Alderman Skidmore.
Robert, Mr. Manning, I appreciate you tonight coming to the committee meeting. Are we, and that's all of the committee, is that, I mean, that's all the wants that are listed this evening, is that correct?
That's all that was presented, but I certainly don't want to be the one excluding anything.
Okay. Well, the reason why I'm asking, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I just don't have the list in front of me. I will after I've got everybody that's listening, on here, and if I start playing with this thing, there's no telling what'll happen to it. So who knows?
I get you. So to answer your question, yes, that's all that was listed with the.
And so your thought process is anything over 8 is getting a little sketchy for us, or the 6 million area.
7 was about where my comfort level held.
Good. All right. Thank you very much. You've answered it.
Thank you.
And let me just run down real quick. The LED light replacement is $150,000 for the parks, and then the turf is $650,000 for the parks. I get you at $800,000, so I get you at $7.1 million if you left in the Drake Street roundabout and also the fire hall, the inline hockey, and the fire truck, where we're at. Answer your question there, Alderman Skidmore.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Campbell. That's what I was looking for. In fact, I was sitting here getting ready to add it up right quick. Would you help me? I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments from any of the board members, committee members?
And I've got one.
Yeah, Lamar, yes, sir.
Yeah, I just got a quick question for Robert, and he's down the hall from where I am, but and maybe this will clarify a few. Robert, if we borrow 6.5 million or we borrow 8.0, what's the difference in the payment each year?
100,000.
Okay. In other
Six
words,
6.5 would be 701,000 estimated. Again, this depends on some interest rates. Very
kind of ballpark, it's all right.
Interest is really good now.
It is. And then 8 million would be around 863,000.
Whoa.
Okay, so basically what we're talking about is $162,000 payment per year in the city's budget for next year. Is that, I'm a simple person, okay? I just need.
That's right. That's right. That's the difference in this. Now, the total debt payment would be, the difference there would be just shy of $3 million to almost, well, I mean, add 165 there, almost 3.2 million.
Okay. Well, I just want to kind of keep it, the payment on 6.5 is 701, payment on 8 million is 863. And I think between now and the board meeting, that's probably what it'll come down to is, do we think the city can afford the difference in the payment per year and the interest over the 12-year cycle? So.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut anybody off. That's like I said, when I talk about my comfort level, it's just what a percentage of what we usually spend. I mean, in a year, we typically shoot between anywhere from 46 to 50 million in expenditures. And we're hovering shy of 2.5 right now at our debt payment, 2.5 million of that. So to increase that increases our ratio. And so that's really where this calculation is coming from. I mean, it's.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, I think I guess I was trying to prove a point where Arlene was going and where you were going is that, or Mr. Gilly, in that if we want to borrow another 700,000 for ball fields and lights and things like that, is it worth it to wait till next year's budget to try to borrow $750,000 versus make a payment of 162, each year? You know what I'm saying? So again, it's kind of a balancing act. I'm just throwing the figures out there. I'm like everybody on the Zoom. I'd like to see everything go through, but we've got to weigh the pros and the cons. So I'm just trying to throw out some figures so that, again, I'm a simple person and I like to keep it simple. So that's all.
Well, to the positive, interest rates are at an all-time low right now too. So that works to our advantage on the payment.
And plus on the roundabout, we are talking about the developer as Durham Farm and those other projects out there develop. They continue to contribute toward that roundabout out there. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Yes, sir, Alderman Brown.
If I remember correctly, there may be some things that we have in tubes right now with the state of Tennessee that we're going to have to pony up some more money on if those come through anytime soon.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And that, I don't remember those exact figures, but it's a pretty good chunk of change, up in the millions. Do you remember the figures, Robert? Or Robert? Pat?
About 3 to 3.3 million, a little over 3 million.
That'd be the Walton Ferry Road realignment and the Sinus Ferry walking trail.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I just, there's no doubt in my mind we need a fire hall. That will save us some money in the long run. I definitely believe we need to move inline hockey. I would hate to tell Mr. Gilly that he has to wait on turf and lights, but Mr. Gilly, in my opinion, you might need to wait on turf and lights And the roundabout was planned, to be done sometime during these phases out there. I don't know when exactly that was, but the developer was supposed to, over a period of time through fees, end up paying for that. And I feel pretty strongly that we wait on those fees to come in, or we try to find that money someplace else. I just don't think we need to bond a whole lot more money when we know we may get a call from the state of Tennessee anytime soon. So it's just my opinion, but it should be yours, as they say.
Alderman Skidmore, you raised your hand a moment ago.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry to belabor the point, which really, I'm just curious and probably could have asked this Tuesday as well. Robert or Mr. Manning, do we have any bonds that are currently on schedule within the next year that we're supposed to pay off? Do you know right offhand?
Well, I have it here in front of me. I wish I was that good to know offhand, but we have one that will expire in 2 years, in 2023. We're just shy of it, and then we have a couple more in 2025.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Alderman Cunningham.
I am of the same thought process as Alderman Brown. I think the list is needs and wants, and it's clear to me what the needs and wants are right now. I'm sorry, Andy, if we can't do the turf, but I definitely would definitely see the need for the covered rinks instead. And I think we can get an ROI on that over the next 10 to 12 years. The roundabout, I don't think there's a sense of urgency, in my opinion, from what I hear, that needs to be done immediately. And the LED lights, can't we use the hotel motel tax for that? I thought that's what we were doing with that hotel motel tax.
We
So,
used part of the hotel motel tax last year to cover some of that, Robert, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
It was not
Yeah.
budgeted to do that this year with that. That 150,000 is for lights at the lacrosse field. That's not even replacement lights. That is for lacrosse field at Memorial Park. The lacrosse club has committed funds to help pay for that as well.
okay. All right. Well, those are just my thoughts.
Do we have a motion?
State the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Sir,
Restate the motion, please.
I said, do we have a motion? That's
Yeah.
the motion we had was to group the roundabout, the turfing the fields, and the LED light replacement together as one conversation, to have that to either move it forward to BOMA or just move all the items on this particular for debt issuance items for consideration. If you want to just move it all to BOMA and have the conversation there Tuesday night, we can do that as well. It's whatever you'd like to do, sir.
We
I would
just
like-
don't want them. We just don't want those meetings that are 2 or 3 in the morning.
Well, I don't think we're going to be there.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion
Yes, ma'am.
to move all the items forward to BOMA, excluding the roundabout,
Yes, ma'am.
the turf field, and the LED lights. And that's my motion.
All right, we have a motion to move to remove the LED replacement lights, the roundabout, and the turf fields from the debt and from the bond issue.
And
We have a
that'll put us at around 6.5 million.
Second.
We have a second. Alderman Brown seconds that. Any more discussion on the motion? Anyone need the motion repeated? All right. Have a motion to move all the items in our debt issue and consider items for consideration to BOMA, excluding the Jack's Creek roundabout, the turf fields, the LED light replacement at this time. I call your name. It'll be a voice vote, of course. Please, aye is approve it. No is no. Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Ms. Skidmore,
I'm gonna say no.
Alderman Sprouse,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Passes 4-1. All right. Do we have any other items that we need to discuss this time for the Capital Projects Committee? I'd asked Marshall to give us an update on Center Point Road, but I'm not sure if Marshall's with us or if he's having to join us through his phone.
I'm here. I'm here, Pat. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Go right ahead, sir.
All right. Took the video off. I'm driving, but no, Center Point Road, as I mentioned in the email I sent earlier a couple of days ago, we have submitted that project to the GNRC for consideration. Now we're still waiting on a response from them to see how it ranked compared to the other projects, but hopefully if it scores, obviously if it scores well, we'll be able to make that into a project. But other than that, I really don't have any other information other than we're just waiting, and we're waiting on the GNRC to make a decision.
All right. Alderman Cunningham.
Marshall, when, what was the date that we submitted that to GNRC?
It was the end of last year.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was the very last day of last year. But I think because of the COVID, I think they've had some delays in making some of these decisions. But hopefully we'll hear something soon, not only on that one, but for the rest of the projects that we submitted.
Okay, thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Any other items for consideration among the members of the committee? Saying no one with their hand up.
Will this be in the first meeting or second meeting in October? No.
Not sure. What day we talk for the first meeting in October?
I would really like to have the opportunity to discuss some money with the county before we start discussing this at the board level, if we can get that done in the next week to 10 days.
Yes, sir.
I think we've got some money out there. We think there's some money out there that we don't know about, and would like to find out if that money is actually there, or the possibility of it. Scotty's wanting to answer that question.
Yes, sir. Chief Bush.
As long as my boss says turn it loose, I'm ready to start asking that question and get a meeting set up either by the end of this week or sometime next week. I'm good with whatever I need to do to accelerate that.
See you, Lamar. Was that okay with you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll start on it in the morning then, and then I'll shoot an email out to BOMA just to, I guess I can do that. Just kind of let you know where we're at with negotiations, or basically I can just report to Chairman Brown and let him disperse the information, whatever y'all think's best.
Is Mayor Clary here by chance? Does he want to say anything on any of these issues or this bond issue by chance? I don't see him here, but I didn't know if he was here.
He hasn't been on the meeting.
Okay. He's not on the meeting? Okay, sir.
Hey, Chief Bush, why don't you and I discuss before you send anything to the BOMA? Why don't you and I sit down and chat before you send something out so we know we're on the same page?
Yes, sir. 100%. I didn't even think about that. I apologize. I'll send it to you and you can disperse it or whatever. Certainly we'll talk. Yes, sir.
Any other comments for the committee?
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Have
Second.
Have a second. Do a voice vote real quick. Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Alderman Cunningham,
Yes.
Ms. Skidmore,
I ought to say no, but yes.
Alderman Sprouse,
Yeah.
You're a nut.
and the chair is a yes as well. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. This meeting is
Enjoy the
adjourned.
company. It's real nice.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Ciao. Ciao.
Y'all take care.